In honor of Sexual Assault Awareness Month, we're sitting down with Dr. Jade from UCF Counseling and Psychological Services to discuss the emotional impact of sexual assault on survivors, the healing journey for those that have experienced sexual assault, and how we can support survivors in regaining control and moving forward. Dr. Jade, thank you so much for taking the time to discuss this important topic with us. Let's start by talking a little bit about the impact of sexual assault on survivors. In our experience, survivors often turn to self-blame. There's shock and confusion in the immediate aftermath of this type of trauma. Dr. Jade, can you tell us about your experience in helping survivors process this type of trauma and overcoming these commonly seen reactions?
Yeah, absolutely. So as you mentioned, those are very commonly seen experiences that people go through following a sexual assault. So I would say the first thing that we want to acknowledge to people is to just normalize these reactions as very typical after such an event. I like to frame it as these are normal reactions to an abnormal situation.
Okay.
What can be very helpful is to provide more psychoeducation and just understanding what happens to somebody after a sexual assault so that they can get a better sense of, I'm not alone. This is very common to feel those feelings. It's very important when somebody discloses those feelings or what happened to them to be able to bear witness to what they've just experienced and let them know that they matter and what they're going through, even if it's distressing, that they're not alone and that we're going to be there to support them. Since these are very, very distressing emotions, as therapists, we want to help them, first of all, create a sense of safety. So making sure that they're safe in regards to their own safety with themselves. And then also making sure they're safe and away from the perpetrator and making sure they don't have any contact with that individual. We also like to teach people some specific skills to help them manage those emotions or those feelings so that they feel more grounded, they feel more in the present moment. Their nervous system is very activated. And so we want to be able to help them find tools so they can calm themselves down and bring them into a state of relaxation. The other really, really important skill I like to help people develop when they experience these kinds of feelings is self-compassion. Having kindness and understanding towards what they're going through. And it's easy with the self-blame to really beat yourself up and be critical, and to instead shift that in understanding that, hey, you've just been violated, you've just been hurt, and let's help you be kinder to yourself. It's also very important to help them be connected and make sure that they have the resources they need beyond just therapy in regards to supporting them with these feelings, because that can have an impact on how they're doing academically or how they're doing at work. So making sure they're reaching out to professors, reaching out to if they need victim services, student care services, student health services. And so helping them create a support system to help them go through this experience. And then, from a therapy point of view, there are various approaches in terms of overcoming trauma that are really about being able to let go of certain maybe flashbacks or very traumatic memories and being able to reprocess these memories in a way that's less distressing. Helping people change their beliefs about themselves and the world, because those can be very shattered after such a difficult event like that. And then also what tends to happen is people might start avoiding certain people or situations because there's so much distress based on what happened. And so we can help the student being able to challenge those avoidance so they can reintegrate in life and regain a sense of safety. And so then at the end, it's really about helping them connect them with themselves and finding a way to reintegrate the trauma into their narrative and their life narrative so that they're no longer defined by this one incident or whatever they've experienced. So it's a long process, and there's no cookie cutter way to go about this. It depends on each individual, and it's important to be respectful of the person's pace and development through that.
Okay. Well, thank you. I know when our office meets with survivors in the aftermath of sexual assault, we often encourage clients to think about activities to help them cope with that stress that comes with a sexual assault. Dr. Jade, in your experience, what are some healthy and unhealthy coping mechanisms that are commonly seen by survivors of sexual assault?
Sure. So maybe I can start with the unhealthy coping mechanism and then move on to the healthy ones. So things that won't help are if somebody engage in extreme withdrawal from life, whether it's from family, from friends, even going outside, just being engaged in the world and becomes very isolated. That can be a very big red flag. Engaging in excessive behaviors related to substance use, like using substances as a way to cope, engaging in risky behaviors like reckless driving, promiscuous sex, just overall not taking adequate precautions can be very unsafe. Engaging, disconnecting from the world and focusing on one thing, whether it's social media or video game, and then completely disconnecting from the rest of the world can be dangerous. Another way sometimes people tend to cope is to overwork and exert themselves and completely limit their own self-care and time for them to be able to connect with other people, do pleasant activities, etc. So being able to have some balance in their life rather than completely immersing oneself into like academics or work. And then just overall lack of self-care, like having some drastic changes in sleep or eating or physical activity may not necessarily help and can actually exacerbate the situation, because then your nervous system is even more running on low. And if you're already very stressed out with what happened, it makes things even worse. Now, in terms of what to do that would be helpful and healthy coping mechanism, what can be helpful is try to maintain some sort of predictability and normalcy in your schedule. Because usually when there's a sexual assault incident happens, it's something that is completely unpredictable, where you completely felt violated and you didn't feel in control at all. And so finding ways where you have something that you can know what to expect and you have some sense of agency can be very beneficial. Regularly practicing ways to relax your body, relax your mind, whether it's through doing breathing exercises, meditation. There are a lot of apps out there to help, or listening to soothing music or practicing yoga can be very helpful. Distraction can be used as long as it's in balance with other times where you do attend to your emotions. So some healthy distracting activities would be to engage in sports or like any drawing or hobbies. Reading can be beneficial. And then reaching out to people, whether it's one person that you trust or a group of people, making sure you're getting adequate rest, and then healthy eating patterns that you keep maintaining as you are healing. And then keeping a journal is also a great way to be able to express what you're going through and having an outlet, so it's not just all stuffed in and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Allowing yourself to take breaks and rest, because your nervous system, as I alluded many times, is under a lot of stress and it's trying to recover from something that was very traumatic. So being able to take breaks and not overwork or overexert yourself. And then if needed, seeking more mental health support from professionals in regards to being able to process what happened, and if it's really getting in your way of being able to function in your life, to seek counseling, whether it's at CAPS or off campus, so that you can get the actual professional support that you need.
Right. That is great. Thank you so much. Absolutely. Having those healthy coping mechanisms are so important to processing that trauma. And you named so many different good ones. You also mentioned support earlier. Can you tell us a little bit about how we can best support a friend or a family member that discloses to us?
Sure. There are several, I would say, major points that I think are really important for someone when you hear a close friend or family member share with you about what just happened to them. The first thing is to let them know that you're there for them and that you're willing to listen to their story if they feel comfortable sharing it. So some people are wanting to spill everything that happened and other people have more reservation. And I think that's important to be respectful of that. Let them know that they're not alone, that you care about them and that you're here to listen to them and to provide any help that they need. And to ask the question to the individual, like, what do you need from me right now? Do you need to come up with solutions? Do you need me to listen? Do you need me to reassure you? Like, how can I be of support for you? Also expressing gratitude towards the fact that somebody trusted you enough to even tell you what just happened, because that oftentimes comes with a lot of shame. Somebody is really going outside of their comfort zone to be able to let you know what happened. And so even acknowledging like, wow, that took a lot of courage for you to tell me this. And I am very thankful that you were willing to tell me and trust me enough. Another big issue that come up after sexual assault is people blaming themselves or worrying that they won't be believed and that in fact people are going to blame them for what happened. So not questioning, this is not about investigating what happened or figuring out the logistics, but to really convey the message that you believe them, you believe their experience, and that it wasn't their fault, and being able to listen to what they have to say in their side of the story. Communicating empathy and validating their experience is really important. Oftentimes when we see somebody in distress, we are very quick in wanting to help them feel better. And sometimes it actually does the opposite. By wanting to help somebody feel better and being in very solution focused, it can actually make somebody feel even less heard and less understood. So being able to just acknowledge, like, this must be very tough for you. I'm really glad you're sharing this. I hear this is hard, rather than going right straight into, all right, what can we do about it to fix it? And then I would say checking in periodically. So this one thing when the person just tells you for the first time, but maybe following up, whether it's a few days later or a week later, about how they're doing and where they're at and what else do they need from you. And being aware of what the resources are out there, whether it's online resources or campus resources, so that you can suggest those to the person, whether it's like, oh, well, I know that CAPS is available for students. Is that something you may want to consider pursuing? Or letting your friend know that Victim Services exists and that they can connect with an advocate. So educate yourself about what the resources are out there so that you can share those with the person that you're supporting.
Absolutely. And we do have a 24/7 hotline number, which is the 823-1200. And we do have the 24/7 text line for anybody that even has questions about what to do if somebody comes and discloses to them. All right. Well, thank you so much, for taking the time to answer the questions for us. As a reminder, if anyone, you or someone you know, is experiencing violence or abuse, please call our text line or our hotline and speak to the advocate. The number is listed on the screen and I just gave it to you. You can always turn to UCF Counseling and Psychological Services if you're a student, or EAP if you're a faculty or staff member, for free counseling services. All right, we want to thank Dr. Jade one more time, and thank you and stay safe, nights.